Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time once again for Closing the Wealth Gap. The one show, maybe the only show that shows you how to close the wealth gap in your own life with the man who's done it for many, our wealth coach himself, Tyrone French. Hey, Tyrone.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Closing the Wealth Gap. I'm your host, Tyrone French. And right off the bat, what I'd like for you to do is download my free mobile app. I priced it so everybody can actually have this thing in their phone and walk around and receive some content that I think will actually scale your business or your personal life to the next level. All I want you to do is go to TyroneFrenchApp.com. That's TyroneFrenchApp.com. Or go to my website if that's too much for you to type in. Just go to TyroneFrench.com. You'll see all the information there. But also, we'd like to hear from you. So, shoot us an email at Tyrone@TyroneFrench.com. Or if you're up late at night and you want to, just chime in, call my office. My office is available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a toll-free number. It is free. The number is 877-296-5192. Again, that number is 877-296-5192, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And again, send us your questions, and maybe we'll take your question and put it on the air. But without further ado, I'm going to get into this because I have a very distinguished guest on hold right now. We're going to bring him in a few minutes. But the first thing I want to do is talk about some of this gentleman's accolades. First of all, I've been knowing this guy over 40 years. We served in the United States Navy together. He was a prolific basketball player in the Navy. And the thing is, some of the highlights, we were stationed on this island called Guam in the Northern Pacific. And one of the highlights of the weekend was to go to the gym and watch these basketball games and boxing events. And so he was an exceptional point guard. As a matter of fact, you would look at this guy and wonder why he wasn't in college playing basketball or in the NBA. But because of his distinguished career playing basketball, he was recognized. And a lot of people don't understand this, but they know about the Hall of Fame as far as the Basketball Hall of Fame and the Football Hall of Fame and Baseball Hall of Fame. But a lot of people don't understand or recognize the Military Hall of Fame. There's a Military Basketball Hall of Fame for exceptional basketball players, and this gentleman is an inductee, 2025 inductee to the Military Basketball Hall of Fame. And I am proud and honored to call this gentleman a friend of mine. I'm going to bring him in right now. His name is Thomas L. White III. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing today, Tyrone?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. I'm just a little bit excited about having you on. We talked about, having the podcast together, and I'm just excited that day is finally here, so that my audience can hear your wisdom and philosophy, but also just to talk about your faith and belief that you had to have in order to accomplish some of the things that you accomplished. So, first of all, just give us a little background. Where are you from, and what prompted you to go into the military?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, I'm honored to be a guest on your podcast. Okay, and I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
What prompted me to go into the military was that I actually couldn't find a job coming out of high school.
Okay.
And I came from a very dysfunctional background. No one had ever really spent time with me to tell me about benefits of college and things of that nature right there. So I was trying to find a way out of Detroit because I loved basketball. I loved sports, and I loved traveling. I had been doing that since I was probably about 10 years old.
Okay.
I came into the military, and I kind of found myself the light of the military sports program. By them, some of the higher ranking people saw me play ball and box and things of that nature. And then, then the journey started in the military.
Right.
That's what basically me around the world. I just so happened to be able to make some of the higher level teams in the military, and that's where it all started at. For me, that's where it all started.
Well, here's the thing. One of the things I want to highlight, because you were a avionics electrician in the military. We were in the squadron together, VQ1, stationed at Agana, Guam. And how was it? How did it come about? Because I know, a lot of times the squadrons kind of, they want you to focus on what you came into the military for, which is to work on aircraft as an electrician. How did you balance that between working your rate in the military and also playing basketball?
Well, the way the military is structured, as you know, we have a job to do, what we signed up to do, which is to serve and protect the country.
Right.
But there's a lot of programs that are offered in the military that are basically for health, morale, and welfare.
Yes.
Right? And military personnel need those programs because of our job and the seriousness of what we do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week under the UCMJ. So these programs are basically out there, whether it's intramural sports, those are the things that you like to do. When you get off work and you have time, there are somewhat base leagues set up for you to participate in these extracurricular activities.
Right. Right.
Me coming from a basketball background, so to speak, I just kind of found my way to the gym whenever I got off work. It kept me busy. It kept my health right. Kept my mental right, in order to be able to do what I signed up for the country. So that's how that actually came about.
Now, the reason I brought this up is because there's going to be some listeners out there, and they're thinking about joining the military. And, they may play basketball, they may play football, they may play baseball, and they really don't associate being able to continue with their career in the military, because again, like you said, they sign on a dotted line, they raise their hand and take that oath to defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic, but they don't see the flip side as far as getting into the military and understanding for morale purposes. The military will promote you playing on specific teams just to keep people from not sitting in the barracks all day long and not having anything to do. That's why they offer these programs. So what I was trying to get to, and we're trying to get at, is you were so prolific based on what you did as a point guard, but it also led you to another accolade that a lot of people don't understand, that you could literally take your degree, take your as far as this hobby that you have to another level and be recognized. So can you explain what it felt like to be, after all these years, to be recognized and to make it into the Military Basketball Hall of Fame?
Well, yes, I can. I actually went into basketball. I used to tell people it was my saving grace. I didn't know what I was going to do coming out of high school again.
Right.
And coming into the military, I knew I wanted to be an electrician. And basketball, because of my dysfunctional childhood, was where I felt God put me on that court to not only teach me about leadership and how to build teams, it taught me about how to deal with people and how to deal with life obstacles and how to work your way through them.
Right.
The objective for me in basketball was to always win, of course, but it was to make my teammates better. It was to make them see their worth more, let them know that they were better than a lot of them seeing themselves be. And so when I actually got to Guam and I locked in on basketball, the command, also noticed that also. And so at that time, French, we were in the era of sizing in the military.
Right.
So there was a lot of more people in the military, a lot of more talent in the military. There were guys who had already played Division I ball in a lot of the universities across the country who, for whatever reason, maybe didn't go to the NBA or whatever, but they found themselves in the military for benefits that it offered, along with them representing their country.
Right.
So that's how they first saw me. So we also get used somewhat as a recruiting tool.
Right, exactly.
Because a lot of them guys, young people, don't know that you can further your passion. The military, they offer that many programs.
Well, see, but you were an all-Navy NBA player. So, you also played with David Robinson, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I did. I was on the first Navy team in the inner service to ever win the gold medal. I was one of the original 12 to play in the most prestigious tournament that the military actually had, and I was on the first team to ever win the gold medal. Now, the ironic thing was we won that gold medal back-to-back. And those tournaments take place all around the world. They might hold it in California. They may hold it over in Germany. It depends on where they're going to hold it that year. But it brings together the best ball players from every branch.
Right.
It's really a big thing. Back when I first started, it used to be on ESPN, and I think this last one was on CBS Sports. So they're making a comeback as far as rebuilding their recreational programs also.
The point
and
that I'm
a lot of
right, but the point that I'm really trying to make, like going back to our listeners that's listening into this conversation, they have no idea that this is possible.
Yeah, most of them don't, French. You have to be dedicated. You have to have that kind of drive, be dedicated to your craft, and be willing to put the work in. And so a lot of guys come in and they just play locally around the base, not ever being aware of the trajectory of that program, where it goes, how it can take you from the base to your inner service tournaments, to your Pan Am games, your SISM games, and ultimately to the Olympics, if you go that far with it.
Right. So let's take it a little bit personal though, a little bit because again, you were the point guard playing with David Robinson. Did you ever have to make sure he was in the right place at the right time, and kind of like insist him being in the right place at the right time? Now, not trying to use profanity, but
no. I get what you're saying, but many times you have to do that because the point guard is an extension of the coach on the floor.
Right.
One of the main things about being a point guard is having a very, very high IQ for the game. Right. And I prided myself on having a great work ethic and having a high IQ for the game. So because I always realized that when I ran into somebody that was equal in talent, how do you separate yourself from them in any field? Well, it's usually your work ethic, your IQ for whatever it is that you're doing. So I put that kind of work in. And yes, I had to correct Dave and a lot of other players. It's just like they could correct me, as a point guard, because the ultimate goal was to win the goal. And those who was willing to put the work in and break the game down and things of that nature, you could usually accomplish a goal. That's how it worked out. That's how it worked out for me. When I first got to the All-Navy team, I had already won every major award that the military had to offer for basketball. I had won the MVP of the South Pac. I had won the MVP of the West Pac in the same year. And I got to that camp, I was probably averaging 38.7 a game without the three-point line. And that first year, I averaged 5 points with that team. But it was only because that's all they needed from me.
Right.
They needed a point guard, someone that could run the show, someone that could get everybody in their spots and, and keep everybody motivated. So that's what you do. Mark of an all-star is not just about what you can add to your game, but sometimes it's what you can take off of your game for the betterment of the team.
Right.
So that's what I prided myself on, doing whatever it needs to be done to get us to where we were, destined to go or we desired to go, And so that's how it came about,
And here's the kicker. All while you were doing this and having the time of your life, doing exactly what you love to do, you were wearing a uniform.
Yes, I was. I was.
In the military, serving your country and getting paid to do it, and trained.
Trained, right. See, I had a lot of people along the path that recognized the talent in me and allowed me, because we're sailors. We go out on ships. We we got deployments, But the program is so big that in most of the times when it came time for that season and the bigger tournaments around the world, they seek out who they consider to be the better ball players in the military, and they bring us together.
Right.
So I was able to be pulled off of ships during Desert Storm and Desert, and Desert Shield, and sent out to California to perform in these inter service tournaments where we have all the upper echelon of the military there, plus the newspapers and everybody else. But like I said, it's a recruiting tool for them also. But it also fills our dream because if you have any eligibility left,
right,
and then universities who are also at these games can work with the military to actually get you out the military, come back to school.
Right. Hey, but I want to ask you a question too, going back to your personality, even the humanity around and your maturity and your growth. Everything, a lot of things happen to you, a lot of great things happen to you, but also, you are human. And just like with anything in life, you have ups and downs. And I'm not going to get into all the details of the background, but there was a situation where this almost didn't come to fruition for you. It almost didn't come to pass based on an incident, and it was our commanding officer, decided to do something that was totally out of the norm with you. And I just want you to take a minute to explain what that situation, as far as that experience that you had. Don't go, I don't need to go into the details, but knowing that there was a situation where all of this could have blown up in your face. Go back to that incident and tell me, just take a few minutes to explain what happened and how that changed you or impacted your life after that incident.
So coming up in the inner city and things of that nature, poverty situations, there is no map on how to get through terrain. I always said, you need to know how to walk through the terrain in order to get where you're going. And often it really has nothing to do with you, but it has something to do with God. And I always tell people that, we don't plan for God. God plans for us.
Right.
That's how I got to fame. But we were young then. We was probably 19, 20 years old, full of energy, all over the place, just getting away from home, growing like young men do. And a lot of us over in Guam, we were so far out, and it was all new to us. So a lot of us would get in trouble here and there for whatever reasons. But this particular time...
Yeah, we actually in the military, it's called Captain's Mass.
It's called Captain's Mass. So so this particular time, there was a lot of us who got in trouble. And we all had to go to Captain's Mass. At that time, what we got in trouble for was a dischargeable offense, actually. didn't hurt nobody or nothing like that, but it was dischargeable if they wanted to. So our commander, he sent 21 of us. He sent 20 of them home. He kept me. And he told me that, and know that you think you're going home, but you're not, right?
Right.
You're going to get barracks, right? He said, no, Petty Officer White, I see that you have a certain type of leadership that you don't realize you have. See how people are drawn to you, right? So I'm going to take your crow, your stripe. I'm going to send you to the restricted barracks. I'm going to take some money, take some extra duty, but you're not going home. And had he sent me home, all of this Hall of Fame and these accolades don't happen.
Would have never happened. Would have never happened.
Right? In fact, I seeked him out when I retired years later. And I said to him, sir, I'm Thomas White. I was in the squadron from 80 to 84. And I was just star athlete, and I got in some trouble, and you decided to keep me in the military. Since then, I've married. I've retired from the military. I've graduated college. I'm a published author now. And top that off, now I'm a Hall of Fame player in the military. So you don't know a lot of times what's down the road for you, but you just have to have faith. You're going to go through your growing pains, and we're blessed that God puts people in your path that actually looks out for you sometimes when you're too young and naive to look out for yourself. So that's kind of what.
Right.
And I've lived a life of giving back and passing it forward to young men and women who are trying to find their way, and letting them know that they are capable and they are often worth more than they give themselves credit for.
I'm glad you said that, because that's a perfect segue to get into your book. I mean, because a lot of people don't know that Thomas L. White III is a published author. And you wrote this book called Healing of a Divided Soul. And one of the things you talk about in your book is about giving, being a giving person. And for me, this show is closing the wealth gap. And I tell everybody, that's willing to listen, that one of the things that you need to do in order to, because the fastest way to create wealth is to own your own business. And by owning your own business, what I'm saying is finding a problem and being a solution, being able to solve those problems, providing a service, being able to give. And then all of a sudden on the back end, just based on reciprocity, you receive. So real quick, we only got a few more minutes left. What prompted you to write your book, Healing of a Divided Soul?
So, life experiences. That's really what brought it on, life experiences. And even when I was a little kid, I would write songs. I would give them away. I just loved to write, but I didn't really like writing when I was in school. It was ironic that went like that, and it played out that way. But by myself, I love to read and I love to write. So I was writing a lot of poetry. And what happened was I was about to retire from the Navy, and some young guys came to me and said that they had a song they wanted me to hear. And when I listened to it, and I said, sure, let me hear it. And so they were young rappers, and he laid their song out there. They said, what do you think about it? And I said, well, it sounds more like you're writing about my life than yours. Okay? Because the things that we did growing up weren't, we were more ashamed of it, but that's all we knew. You guys glorify it as if it's some kind of badge of honor to wear. So I started writing. I was trying to find out, French, what would replace this passion I had for basketball and boxing when I was ready to get out the military. And so I started writing, and it was so therapeutic I just started digging in, and the poems kept flowing, and it was 5 poems at first. I could remember them verbatim, and then it was 10, and then it was 20, and it was 50, and they were still pouring out of me. But what I noticed was that there was a trajectory to all the pieces. It was writing from a lost place to a better place, right? A helping place, a giving place to people, to kids that are going through these things now. So I talk about everything in the book, from financial literacy to broken homes to drug-addicted families to just getting your life together, just the beauty of life.
Right.
So that's what came about the poem, the book. So when people say, hey, man, you didn't put your picture on the book. And I say, well, I wrote the book. There's a lot of spirits up in the book.
Right.
And so when they asked me, how do you write like that? And I said, conversation.
Exactly.
Right. Poetry is poetry. If you remove the faces, there lies the poetry. You have to know what it is that you're looking for. And to this day, I still get up at 4:30 in the morning and write every day because I don't know what God's going to give me to write about. But I know whatever he gives me, I honestly dig into it, and I put it out there because I know it's going to reach where it's supposed to go. And so that was something that I found that I love to do, and it fell right into place right after the basketball doors started closing. As I was getting older, Well,
I can tell you this though: it took a great deal of faith to and continue to take faith to do what you do. But I got your book right here, and I'm going to read from your book on page 27. It talks about keep the faith. It says, the stronger you are in your faith, the less surprised you'll be in your success. The more you trust and believe in the Father, the more your life will truly be blessed. The more you understand that giving is more important than receiving, the less you'll worry about time on earth, and you'll know and get better after leaving. To me, when I read that, that hit home, because success is something that should surprise you. Success is not something that we pursue; it's something that we attract. And in order to be on this level, we call it, a frequency, and you're vibrating at a certain frequency. It takes that faith. It takes a great deal of faith to put those ideals and that idea and that energy in motion to become accomplished, and then to look back at a life after 6 decades, 7 decades, 8 decades, and say, look at a life well lived on a daily basis. So that's how your book inspires me. I would recommend anybody to go to Amazon.com and look at Thomas L. White III, Healing of a Divided Soul, because you'll be blessed by it. I know it blessed me, and it's one of those books that I have available to me, meaning that I have it out in the open. And sometimes I just stop and pick that book up and start reading, and it brings me back to that vibration, that frequency that I should be on, for me to stay in the now and to live in the now, so that I can accomplish the things that I want to accomplish and be consistent, that I can look back and see the successes. Go ahead.
Tyrone, I go around speaking to a lot of people, and I tell a lot of people that we don't control life and time. Those are things that are controlled by God, right? And the reason why a lot of people can't seem to move forward is because they hold on to a history in which they can change absolutely nothing. Okay?
Right.
So power is in the present.
Exactly.
Most people can't maximize their power because they're too busy bringing stuff from their past to the present, right? And that's one of the problem with a lot of people, is that they hold on to things that are beyond their control now. Every day that you wake up is a new day. It's just the new day to the rest of your life. And so you have to focus in the here and now.
Exactly.
I know, right? Talking to Tyrone and Paul, and I'm doing a podcast. And in this moment, I want to do something great, right? And for the future, right? And it also passed that back to young people coming up through life now, right? And so this is what the frequency and vibration and sound of us getting to the next step is all about right here. I believe that we are put here to help each other get through this realm and this phase of life.
Yes, I agree.
I truly believe that.
I agree.
And so my energy is directed that way, right? Because it's easier to help than it is to hurt. It's easier to build up than it is to tear down, right? And so it's your power. A lot of people don't think that they have a power, but I say, no, you do have a power. You all have a superpower, and that superpower is called choice. Okay? Your choices are your superpower because it directs where you're going in life. Okay? You can't stop all the things that come into your soul. You have something to do with what you put back out in the universe.
Absolutely.
And never forget, the universe is the world's greatest university. Okay?
Say that again.
Okay?
Say that again, man.
Universe, world, this university.
Absolutely.
Okay? No
Absolutely.
one can stop learning. You just have to have the desire to learn. All knowledge ain't good knowledge, but you need to understand what righteous knowledge is. Right? And as long as you're being fair with people and you respect people and you understand that God put us all here and we all have to learn to work together, we have to learn how to better society. It makes no difference what part of the ocean that you're on. You know what I'm saying? It makes no difference what the pigmentation in your skin is. Those are all small-minded things right there when you talk about actually helping people better themselves, their lives, in this earth that God gave us, an abundance of everything on. That's my approach. That's how I move. And
well, again, you summed it up. You summed it up in your book, Healing of a Divided Soul, and like you just said, it's a choice. And if you choose, and again, we only got a couple more minutes here, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. But if you choose to live in the now versus living in the past or in the future, then you can begin to acquire not just the understanding, but the understanding of
Amen.
your place in the universe. Like you said, in this university. So
remember what, French, I ain't going to hold you on this one, but remember this. We're all born. I said that a child to me is at its most brilliant point upon entering this world. Why? Because they're still connected to the universe, to nature, right? We come into this world understanding the ways of mankind, but we're not meant to stay in the understanding phase.
Right.
We're meant to cross that bridge to the understanding of mankind.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that's how we have to move this thing forward.
And just for some contents and just for clarity, you have outer standing,
Right.
you have understanding, and you have inner standing. And when you get to that, the bridge, like you just said, is understanding to get you to inner standing. But what you want to get out of is outer standing.
Right.
Well, I tell you what, man, it's been a joy talking to you today. Matter of fact, we have so many other things that we could talk about, but we're just short on time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you back. And as we're going out, what are some of the last thoughts that you have for the audience that you want to leave?
Well, the main thing is the understand that this is about the betterment of humanity. We weren't put here to tear down. We were put here to maintain and to build up. We weren't put here to actually create things of mass destruction. We was here to actually build for the future, right?
Yes.
So takes courage sometimes to walk against the grain.
Right.
Right. That's what a true soldier is. It's one who lives in courage. And, you take that stand that other people might not understand, or they might understand it, but they don't understand it.
Right.
So that is what we have to do, and each one of us together can make a difference.
That's true. Hey, you know what? I tell people all the time, especially talking about being a veteran and associating courage with different things, because sometimes people just look at these. They look at words. They don't look at the meaning of the word. And I explain to people, it takes courage to get you out of that foxhole, to get you out of that norm, to get you out of that funk. But it takes confidence to keep you going.
Right.
So with that being said, where can they find your book? Where can my audience find your book?
You can find it on Amazon. You can find through Barnes and Nobles.
Okay.
I usually have them on hand myself, but I generally send people through Amazon right now, because when you buy them from Amazon, you can actually put a review on them, right? That is how you literally tie into the literary giants. They look at the reviews to see what people are following. Financially, when we talking about financial literacy, I could sell it myself and make more money, but let them do it, because what I can always do, friends, I can duplicate a book. I probably got 5 now written that I haven't even edited yet and pushed out.
Right.
No.
But here's the thing. The reason I brought that up is because I want people to go to Amazon, purchase your book, and because you purchased the book on Amazon, you're able to leave a review, which is, again, to me, that'll be priceless. So, Thomas, I got to wrap this up, man. Again, it was a joy having you on. We barely touched the subject or touched the surface of some of the things that we can discuss. But again, I'm going to have you come back if you'd like to, and we'll just call this part 2 of having a conversation with Thomas L. White III. Is that okay?
Again, I'm honored, and thank you, and I'll be my honor to come back and share the podcast with you.
Outstanding. Well, that's all we got for this week. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. If you're out there and these are uncertain times and you're trying to figure out, trying to make sense of your finances and trying to figure out what's going to happen next, you can always go to my website, TyroneFrench.com, reach out to me, leave a comment. You can call. Sometimes people just need, somebody to talk to. It's a recorded message. Just call Tyrone, 877-296-5192, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Vent, leave your comments. And like I said, some of these comments, I'll address on the show because, your financial literacy, but also your mental acuity, your overall well-being is extremely important to me, because again, you're not going to close that wealth gap unless you're healthy, you're one within yourself. So until next time, I just want everybody to know that Tyrone French is closing the wealth gap.
That's our show for this week. Closing the Wealth Gap. The one show, the only show that shows you how to take control of your financial future. Right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OCTalkRadio.net.